Hello, everyone, and welcome to the semifinals of the Indianapolis Open weekend. Cedric Phillips and Patrick Sullivan are here in the booth. Nick Miller is down in the feature match area. He'll be keeping track of all the things that are taking place down there in the semifinals as we prepare to watch Chris VanMeter with white-red vehicles do battle against Jacob Hagen and his red-black aggro deck. I think two of the more obvious decks coming into the weekend, but they have not failed to perform, that's for sure.
Definitely, and probably the two decks that most maximize Smuggler's Copter, which seems like week one, the card you'd want to be maximizing.
Jacob on 6 cards here, while Chris on 7. Both players will start with a Mountain. Jacob has the first play, however, in Inventor's Apprentice. To VanMeter we go. He'll draw a Mountain. Obviously, the question is, does he have white mana? And you see a plane, so the answer is yes. Now it's a Veteran Motorist. Scry 2 is what Chris will do. PNLR and the big boat, Sky Sovereign. Does he want to keep the boat is the question.
His hand is pretty heavy on mana, so I can see him leaving this one on top.
He's got 2 more lands over there. Looks like a Fleet Wheel Cruiser as well, so some options.
He's got a hand with a PNLR on the top as well, so he's got a play to make on 3 that gums up the works, a play on 4, and then a payoff on 5.
Decisions here for CVM. Looks like he is sending both to the bottom.
Okay.
Not interested in either. Looks like he'll pass the turn back. So over to Jacob will go. Looks like Jacob does have a copy of Smuggler's Copter in hand. We know how effective that has been all weekend long.
Fiery Temper as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, there's the copter. And now here comes the Inventor's Apprentice. Will we see a trade here? It is a 2-3 against a 3-1. Chris taking a long look at the grip here.
I feel like Chris's hand is pretty conducive to damage racing here, and he should be taking the hit.
He's going to take the hit. Time to untap and draw here for VanMeter. Remember, the top 2 cards went to the bottom. He's drawn a Smuggler Copter of his own. So he will play a land. He will play a DePaula, and now this will be a hit for 4. Let the racing begin. Over to Jacob Hagen we're going to go. He will draw a card. Looks to be a Swamp. Fiery Temper, you did mention, that's in the hand. He has the ability to cast that now if he'd like. And I think you can appreciate it. It's an old school Fiery Temper.
Well, it could be a time-shifted one.
Also true. Also true. There's Bomac Career. That will get in the chopper. And here come the beatdowns. Draw, discard, Fiery Temper, see you later, DePaula. That's the kind of play that makes this deck attractive.
Yep. Being able to make a play and kill CVM's play and hit for 5. Very efficient turn. Fiery Temper through a Madness Outlet seems to be a real breaker in these red mirrors.
For Chris, we'll see where he moves to next. He'll start by playing a Mountain. And now, all right, Copter. Follow up. Declaration in Stone. Gonna take care of the Inventor's Apprentice. And is he still going to keep attacking, or is he going to slow up a little bit?
Well, now against the Inventor's Apprentice, he has to slow down, because that turns the Copter into a 4-4.
Against the Veteran Motors.
The Veteran Motors, excuse
Sure.
me.
Yeah, I was curious if we were going to see Chris attack on his own with the Motorist for 3 and just keep trying to push things. Well, it looks like he's going to try to slow down a little bit. There's a Foreboding Ruins revealing a Swamp. Fleet Wheel Cruiser. Crew there. Giddy up, let's go. Copter will allow Jacob to draw and discard. There goes another copy of Foreboding Ruins. Chris will crew the copter. Block that copter. Chris's copter is a 4/4 after all, thanks to the motorist. So draw and discard will VanMeter. Away goes an Inspiring Vantage. He wins that battle, but he's got to take 5 to do it.
Do not think that I would have sent in the copter there.
VanMeter going to draw.
Had a pretty good attack as things stood with just with the wheel cruiser.
Yeah, with the cruiser.
You either trade with the copter or you trample over for 4 and get the 3/1 off the battlefield.
VanMeter's got 2 Fleet Wheel Cruisers of his own right now. Maybe we'll see him go towards that.
The problem now from ZVM's perspective is that attack last turn was so aggressive that do you feel like you just have to hold it back? Because the only way to justify that attack is if Hagen kind of already has you in range if he gets you to 8.
Oh, there's Fleet Wheel Cruiser. He's almost forced to attack with this now.
Right, he can't block with multiple vehicles anyway, so.
All right. Beat down. He's leaving himself open. Draw, discard. It's a risk. It is an attack for 9, to be fair.
But the shields are down.
Yep.
I don't know, he might feel like he can't beat most of the red cards anyway, or Unlicensed Disintegration.
Which I'm not sure he can beat.
Right.
Yeah. Remember, the cruiser takes 2 to crew. And right now, Jacob only has 1. He'll draw a card. Looks like he picked up a copter.
So Hagen's mana is a little bit awkward right now, and he can't really break the clue and then be able to find something that produces lethal. A line of play that he does have, he can play his Inventor's Apprentice, attack for 6. He gets a card off of the Bowmat Courier, and if he essentially blind reveals that into a burn spell, then he can finish off the game this turn. But he can't, say, clue into Fiery Temper and cast the Inventor's Apprentice in 1 turn, so it has to be off the Courier.
Oh, just 5. VanMeter going to fall down to 3. Follow-up. Copter. Pass. VanMeter is untapping real fast. He'll draw. Cruiser. 3, 2. I think that's lethal. Yeah. Yeah, equip there. Yep. Because those things have trample. So, Chris VanMeter going to win game number 1 here over Jacob Hagen. Wired Vehicles up a game here over Red Black Aggro. You see the power of the vehicles there in Smuggler's Copter and Fleet Wheel Cruiser.
I think Hagen needed to roll the dice there. Just not likely he gets out of that turn. A number of cards from CVM there finish off the game. I know it's long odds that he's able to find something, but I think the route there was just 1 blind shot with the Bowmat Courier, and if you peel Fiery Temper, Incendiary Flow, Unlicensed Disintegration, you can steal the game.
Sideboards is where we're going to go now. We will start with Jacob Hagen. It is 2 Call the Bloodline, 4 Galvanic Bombardment, 2 Kalidas Trader of Get, 2 Lightning Axe, 1 Reckless Bushwhacker, and 4 Transgress the Mind.
Kind of the same deal as before when we saw this in the top 8. I like the Galvanic Bombardments, the Lightning Axes, and the 2 copies of Kalidas. I think VanMeter probably has too much size on the battlefield for Call the Bloodline to be very good, but I do like the 6 removal spells in the Kalidas.
Other side of things here for Chris VanMeter, 4 Gideon Allies at a car, 4 Galvanic Bombardment, 3 Weaver of Lightning, 2 Fragmentize, and 2 Skywhaler Shot.
Definitely want the Galvanic Bombardments. May want the Gideons, and I think you could justify Weaver of Lightning as well.
Well, those are the options there for both players.
Oh, excuse me. The Fragmentize is obviously great here too. Tons of cheap.
Yeah, plenty.
Tons of cheap artifacts.
I think that almost certainly comes in. We'll talk that Season 3 schedule now. Here on the SCG Tour, where we kick things off in New Jersey. That's where we watch Liam Lonergan win that Invitational. So congratulations to him. We'll see him at the Players' Championship at the Star City Game Center in Roanoke, Virginia later this year. In Richmond is where Jacob Hagen lost in the finals to Ted Felicetti. Felicetti getting the job done with Bant Company there. And then in Orlando, a couple weeks ago, we watched Bradley Carpenter get his first SCG Tour Open win with Infect. Now we're here in Indianapolis. Only got a couple more rounds left before we're crowned a champion. And then regionals.
Yeah. Go.starcitygames.com/regionals to find the regional championship closest to you, October the 15th, which will be standard. Then a Modern Open in Milwaukee. After that, we go to November, 3 open events, Legacy, Modern, and Standard in Baltimore, Columbus, and Knoxville. And then the Season 3 Invitational in Atlanta, Georgia, December 2nd through the 4th, Standard and Modern as the Invitational formats.
Plenty of play mats available here. Now, of course, when you do enter any of our Opens or Classics, you'll get a free and exclusive playmat just for entering. So for Standard, like the players who play in our main event here, Little Dark Salvation, Liliana getting some nice work done there with her zombies. For Modern, Steel Overseer. A lot of people like to put some counters on some artifact creatures, and not everyone likes to spin the top as much as Joe Lissette does. But for our Legacy players, you'll get the awesome new artwork for Sensei's Divining Top. Free and exclusive playmats available here during Season 3 Opens and Classics on the SCG Tour. So, we get ready here for game number 2. I think we can learn a little bit more about Chris VanMeter, a player who we haven't seen as much this year.
It's funny, you know, I was watching CVM play that game, obviously, and watching all the mannerisms and the behaviors, the way he shuffles his cards around. And I was thinking, I remember I covered this guy for years.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Yep.
Just a fixture of the SCG Tour, and between moving to Seattle and dabbling in a variety of games as a streamer, we've seen him at less and less Magic tournaments, but it sounds like that's poised for a change here.
Yeah, the addition to Team Card Hoarder has made it so that traveling is a lot more feasible for him, which is pretty awesome stuff for the 34-year-old who's currently residing out in the Seattle area. 18 open top 8s with 4 wins. So he's looking for win number 5 here this weekend with 1 invitational top 8. And we lost in the finals to his good friend Ali Antrazi during our Season 2 Invitational last year. Top-rated chess player in grade school, represented the U.S. in middle school during international competition, ran 2 successful Kickstarters, one for his Beard Power t-shirt and one for his BBD versus CVM playmat, and played college football over in Spokane, Washington. Now he's back casting spells. Kind of feels like he's back where he belongs here on the SCG Tour.
Yeah, it's great to have him back. And it sounds, from what he said and what we've heard, that he's going to be trying to run through all the SCG events through Season 3. So it'll be nice to have him be a fixture again.
Abe Schnocki, he is up a game against Zach Voss as Green-Black Delirium, currently up a game over Grixis Emerge. That other side of the bracket, that's a slower one, but I think that Schnocki's deck is pretty good against these aggressive strategies.
Well, he's leaning very heavily on a couple key cards. He has a couple cheap plays early on in the game. He's got some copies of Ishkana. Those are key plays. There is also a lot of slowness, a lot of dead draws early on. So if he draws the right portion of his deck game 1, I think his matchup can be very good.
Both these players are going to take a look at their opening hands. We'll be underway here in game number 2, just a bit.
Also a lot to be said for 2 colors and how many of his lands enter the battlefield untapped. A huge deal against aggressive decks. Not something you necessarily notice when you're looking at deck lists, but compare, you know, his deck list to, say, Jeff Hoagland's this weekend. That was just chock full of dual lands entering the battlefield tapped. Casting stuff on time, even if it's not the best stuff, is often a good recipe against aggressive strategies.
Inventor's Apprentice is where Jacob will start. For Chris, it's just the Needle Spire, so we'll head back over Jacob's way. He'll play a Mountain, a Scrap Heap Scrounger, come across here for 2. It's a good start here for Jacob Hagen. He's on the play with an aggressive start. To VanMeter will go. Plains is what he's found. An Inspiring Vantage is what he'll play. Pretty land-heavy hand here for Chris. I think I see 3 mountains and a plains over there.
Yep. First draw step was a plains.
Okay. Let's see what he's got to do on his second turn. Pretty deep in the tank here.
Looks like he's got a Fragmentize, and he can hope that Hagen is without black mana.
He's going to go Declaration in Stone instead. Give him a clue, which means he's still going to have an artifact there for the Inventor's Apprentice. But the Scrounger is done for good. Hagen will draw. He does have black mana. You see the Swamp in hand, also a Mountain, a PNLR.
Nice looking hand.
Mm-hmm. Now it's all about sequencing these cards. How does he want to use these resources? Because he can play them all. Just got to figure out what land he wants to play. He's going to start by attacking for 2. I think that's the easy part. Get that out of the way. There's the Swamp. There's the PNLR. Yeah, and VanMeter's hand looks pretty poor. He'll draw. Ah, yes, another land. Needle Spires. Chris in some trouble now. There's a Mountain. Looks like he'll just pass the turn back. I believe Skywhaler's Shot in hand.
Not the best against this particular class of threats.
Yeah. Now Jacob is feeling like he could pump that Thopter. Might be able to get a bit of an advantage.
I mean, when you're Skywhaling Shot Thopters, I mean, I guess that's fine. Better than the alternative of
Sure.
dying within your hand.
One of your favorites.
Can't take it with you.
Yeah. There's a Bomat Courier. Beat down a clock. Yeah, just take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Leave up Fiery Temper. Hard to argue.
Looks as though Hagen may have missed his Bomat Courier trigger.
I think you are correct. Declaration in Stone the draw. Not all that exciting. There's a land for Chris.
I question how much removal VanMeter can sideboard into when he is also playing against a lot of removal on the other side.
Yeah. Fragmentize. I like.
Yep.
Skywhaler's Shot, not so much. I think there will be spots where it's good, but I think those are kind of few and far between.
Yep. 3 mana is just a lot to pay for a removal spell that you can't cast a good percentage of the time.
There's Fragmentize on the Bomat Courier.
Times are tough all over.
You're not wrong. All right. That'll take care of the Bomat Courier. Now does CVM want to use Declaration Stone or not?
So when you have some removal spells that don't work, and you're playing with Declaration in Stone, which generates card advantage on the other side, it's really easy to get out-carded. It puts a lot of pressure on VanMeter to end the game quickly, and Hagen's deck is playing with a lot of removal and sideboarding into even more removal. So be nervous about looking like you're over sideboarding here.
Beatdowns. Chris is really hoping he pumps twice.
Not going to give it to him.
He is not pumping twice.
Not giving it to him. Love it.
Yeah. Play a land, say go, leave temper.
Oh, yeah. You get to take that one with you.
Oh, there's the boat again. The boat comes at the perfect time every game.
Yeah, it's great.
Boat.
The boat has been the star of coverage so far.
Yeah. It has been horrible.
Yep.
Boat.
Yeah.
All right, that dies, and now you die. Jacob Hagen gonna win game number 2 here against Chris VanMeter, Red-Black Aggro.
Come on. Again with the boat.
Boat, your turn. White-red vehicles, Red-Black Aggro going to game 3. Not as funny as the Ghoulsteed peel,
Not quite.
but that's happened with the boat like 4 times
I know.
this weekend.
Just like on the ropes, need a big draw here. I have the mana to cast it even, and it's just still not close to what the game is about.
I need something that like kills something and blocks, and this sort of doesn't actually do that.
Right.
Doesn't quite do that.
Come on, baby.
Ah! Both players here going to go back to the drawing board, I think. You think anything changes play draws? They're both taking a look at each other's deck list?
Not really. I mean, I think that Chris, like I mentioned, it looked like he was a little bit more removal heavy than I would like to be in this kind of matchup. And on the play, even a greater incentive for him to be lighter on removal and just try to leverage the beatdown draw. But CVM and I might just have different approaches to the matchup. Just worries me playing against removal and giving your opponents clues and so forth of you just need to be pretty fast and pretty threat dense, I think, to win those kind of games.
Well, they're going to be playing game number 3 here in just a moment. We do know on the other side of things that Abe Schnocke is currently up a game right now over Zach Voss. Green Black Delirium is up a game over Grixis Emerge. Hopefully we'll have time to jump that way. We'll let you know just as soon as we can. But for right now, we can talk about what these players are playing for here in the top 4. It's been a pretty good run for all 4 of them, so they're walking out of here with at least $1,000. The winner, of course, $5,000, 30 SCG points, and an invite to our Atlanta Invitational. The finalist, $2,000, 25 SCG points, and an invite to our Atlanta Invitational. And as we know, that Invitational is the way to get to the Players' Championship and a whole bunch more. Now, Chris VanMeter, he's been there before. He's not there just yet this year. We know the people that are there this year. Max McVitie, Jeff Hoagland, Jerry Thompson, Andrew Tension, they got it done in Season 1. Liam Lonergan, Tom Ross, Andrew Jessup, Kevin Jones, they got it done in Season number 2. And, of course, Jim, well, he was first of all. He did win our Players' Championship last year, so we'll see him defend the title December 17th and the 18th at the Star City Game Center in Roanoke, Virginia. 16 competitors, $50,000 for the StarCityGames.com Players' Championship. We got to figure out who the other 7 are going to be.
Rounding into form a little bit, but we still have regionals, the 4 open events, and then Atlanta to figure out the Season 3 invites.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a race, and we have a handful of people we're kind of slotting into those 3 slots potentially, but still a ways to go.
Both players will take a look at their opening hands. Chris VanMeter will be on the play. I have to imagine his deck's got more of an aggressive slant to it here in this game. Trying to be reactive against that deck, I think, is a fool's errand.
It's tough, and I think not enough is made of Declaration Stone. Yes, it's a sweet removal spell, but it is card advantage on the other side if you're not blowing up tokens, and does put some pressure on you to either win the game quickly or lock your opponent out of the game somehow.
There's a cost. There's definitely a cost to playing that card. Aether up here for Jacob. He'll get an energy. You saw Chris start off with the Needle Spires. Now there's a Bomac Courier. Pay the red. Try to get you dead.
To say nothing of the artifact synergies that it makes more reliable on the other side of the table as well.
VanMeter will play a Plains. And the follow-up looks to be a 3-man Inspector. Clue here for Chris. Galvanic Bombardment at the ready. Let's go over to Jacob. Jacob will draw. He's got another hub over there. Looks like he has a mountain too, so mana doesn't appear to be great, but he can play. And that's a mountain. This is a Scrounger. Pass that turn back. No Galvanic Bombardment here for Chris just yet. He will just draw a card. Declaration in Stone. But most notably, I don't think he has a 3rd land.
You know what would be a bad draw step right now?
I'm going to go with the boat.
The boat?
Yeah. The boat. Curious how Chris wants to move forward on this turn. Kind of wants to crack a clue and find a 3rd land. Kind of doesn't. Gonna cast Declaration Stone on the Scrounger. Make that leave for good and simply pass the turn back. We're going back over to Jacob Hagen now. He'll draw. I believe it was Unlicensed Disintegration. Here's a hub. 2 energy. Now there's Pia. We're going back over to VanMeter. VanMeter will draw. Plains is timely because I believe he has a copy of Weaver and Lightning.
And I was curious before, when you're tight on lands, you typically want to be as efficient with your mana as possible. And CVM not casting his copy of Galvanic Bombardment, I was a little confused by. But if he had a Weaver of Lightning in hand, it makes sense that he would be willing to, try to hold off and squeeze out a little more value out of it.
He'll play a Pia of his own, make a Thopter, pass the turn back. I think the plan here is for Chris is he says if I draw another red source that's untapped, play Weaver of Lightning, Galvanic Bombardment in the same turn.
Yep.
Be able to finish off 2 things.
Doesn't want to expose it to a removal spell without getting any value out of it.
For sure.
Hoping that he can peel red mana and land number 4, comes into play untapped, and have one big swing here.
Foreboding Ruins the draw there for Jacob Hagen. Just going to play the runes and nothing else really going on. So we head back over to CVM, who drew a Plains. Not exactly what he was looking for, but I don't think it's bad.
Well, it's getting him closer to land number 5, which then allows him to cast Weaver of Lightning and Declaration Stone in the same turn.
All right, that'll
So
count.
it's an alternate way to kind of engineer the same board state.
But you know what you can cast for 5 mana?
Mrrr.
Is that a cow?
It's like a barge.
Okay.
It's a
war barge?
It's a barge.
Yeah.
Duh. You knew that.
The big boat. Selfless Spirit has been placed on the stack. There may be a response here from Jacob Hagen. Maybe. Here's a Fiery Temper. Bye-bye, Pia. Spirit's in now. Selfless Spirit is just annoying enough that Jacob has to do something about it.
Could potentially offer a Pia this turn in exchange.
Swamp the draw. Incendiary Flow. See what this is going to target. Yep. All right, Selfless Spirit out of here. It's basically a flag bearer at that point. You got to kill that first, right? Then you can move on to other stuff. While Jacob is going to figure out his combat. Looks like the Thopter might be attacking. Let you know that Grixis Emerge and Green-Black Delirium, that's Zach Voss and Abe Schnocke, they're going to game number 3. An error there for Jacob.
Yep. I was about to say maybe there's an argument for not doing that first, since you can attack, let Chris do whatever Chris is going to do inside of combat, and then use removal spells after the fact as appropriate, or use your instant. Playing the sorcery speed 1 and then running your Thopter in, not the way to manage that.
Yeah, runs his Thopter into an indestructible Thopter because Selfless Spirit was sacrificed. He clearly did not see that interaction, so he loses his Thopter as a result.
The upshot of all of this, though, is now the game has moved to the spot where the boat is game over.
It is. The boat would be. And that veteran motorist can help find the boat. And it has enough power to crew the boat. There's the motorist. Scry 2. 1, 2. Geez, wow. 2 Galvanic Bombardments? I don't think I'm passing up on those.
Especially now that he's drawn his second red source of mana to pair with the Weaver of Lightning.
Yeah. I will keep them both. Deal 2, deal 3, deal 4. One thing I do like about this game, Chris refusing to expose the Weaver of Lightning.
Yeah.
I think that's really smart.
I mean, it's shaping up to go for the game to go on for a pretty long time, and it's just important for VanMeter to accrue as much card advantage as he can. He probably plays that game a little bit worse than Hagen, but if the game's not being played at a very fast pace, he can take his time and try to set up these 2-for-1s.
Jacob cracks the clue, draws a card, then he takes a draw step for his turn. You see 2 copies of Inventor's Apprentice, Bomac Courier, and Unlicensed Disintegration. That's the grip there. Here come the Knuckleheads. And pass. CVM will now untap, and he'll draw. Galvanic Bombardment, as we know.
Now ready to do some work.
I mean, he might have some interest in Declaration and Stoning the 2 Inventor's Apprentice, too.
My first order of business, I think, would just be to bombardment the PNLR and shoot down the Bomat Courier. Because it's possible the game goes in such a place where you don't even need to do anything about those apprentices, and you don't want to be giving him a bunch of clues if the game's going to be played on a relatively slow timeline.
Oh. He says, I'll Declaration and then fire there. I can see your argument, though.
Yeah, my instinct would just be to shock as the first order of business. Because he has another Galvanic Bombardment on top of his deck, which then can actually take care of the apprentices also, just by itself. Just kind of loath to Declaration in Stone on turns where my opponent has the mana left over to sacrifice clues.
Sure. Start to recoup what they've lost.
Right, I'd rather at least wait till they're tapped out so they're not using their mana efficiently that turn. Because there's a very good chance that Hagen would have just burned off this mana and done nothing with it if you weren't giving him the 2 clues.
Well, those are going to bite the dust, as will the Bomat Courier. So 2 clues given. That card's exiled forever.
A mystery. We'll never know.
We'll never know. Jacob with Unlicensed Disintegration in hand. You wonder if he's going to fire that off now as the Thopter comes in, or if we'll see him crack a clue first. Jacob says, I'll take 1 from the Thopter in the air. Sure, why not? All right, crack a clue. Down to 1. Draw a card. Mountain the draw. Hagen will untap. It's time to draw. That draw step is a Fiery Temper. But remember, the Weaver of Lightning, probably the best card on the battlefield right now for Chris VanMeter, is a 1/4. And now it's time for the 8th seed to figure out a way out of this.
He can kill the Weaver of Lightning. He can cast his Bomat Courier and just sort of pass the turn back and crack a clue. It's not great, but it's not like he's under that much pressure, so.
We'll say he better kill that Weaver now, or it gets real bad. Uh-oh.
Yep. This is going to be ugly.
Yep. VanMeter going to start here with Galvanic Bombardment, trigger over to the Bomat Courier.
And this is going to be the full clear out here.
Yeah, you just can't let him untap with it.
Or you can not cast your one-toughness creature.
One of the two.
Either's fine.
Yeah. Here come the attacks. Here's Unlicensed Disintegration. It's going to take care of the Veteran Motorist. 1, 2, 3 points of damage are going to come across. Now we're going to head back over to Jacob, who's in some real trouble now as he draws a card. The other thing, too, about Red-Black that I think we've seen over the course of this tournament, not the best deck at blocking.
No.
Or catching up, really. You know, maybe they might be able to burn you out. Maybe a little cheesy win, something like that. But Chris is at 16. You know, there's a Copter. Chris has got that covered. We know that because he's got 2 more Galvanic Blasts in hand. For now, it's all about closing speed here for VanMeter. He'll draw a card. Plains.
I also think that I would have cast the Fiery Temper over the Unlicensed Disintegration, since now Hagen has Fiery Temper lined up against Weaver of Lightning.
Sure.
If you're going to kill the 3/1, then I would rather just use the burn spell.
Sure, sure. Chris, just curious, how many cards do you have in your hand? What do I have to worry about right now? Not a ton. Going to take 3. Well, Jacob, going to fall down to 13. I think Chris would maybe wants to play that Plains. He'll pass the turn back. 2 Galvanic Bombardments in hand. To Jacob Hagen, we shall go. A Reckless Bushwhacker.
Now you can see he's got a one-toughness creature that he would like to play to turn on the Copter, but the removal spell can't get rid of the Weaver, and then he's just left with a one-toughness creature floating in space, not where he wants to be against Weaver of Lightning.
Well, I will say this. If he does play the Reckless Bushwhacker, turn on the Copter, by all means, because then Bombardment can take down the Copter. and the Weaver can take down the Reckless Bushwhacker. Yeah, so this is a pretty good exchange here for one spell. But this is why the Weaver had to die.
Yep.
You know, that was the mistake this game. That'll resolve. Bang. Trigger. Bang. 2 for 1. Aisle 3.
Yeah, now this is the second creature killed by the Weaver.
Pass the turn back. CV, I'm just looking for a red source now at this point, I think. Sort of found one. I think at this stage he just really wants to close this.
Yep.
And start moving towards Needle Spires and all that stuff. And I think that he's got to feel pretty safe about, yeah, let's just go.
He's got a Needle Spire left over, and now he's got another red source that he just drew, so.
The Fire Temple will take care of that. 3 damage going to come across. Jacob going to go down to 10. Play an Inspiring Vantage. Pass the turn back. Jacob more or less empty-handed. Drew a card that sort of does something here in the Bomac Courier.
Yeah, it gets to sort of loot, I guess.
Yeah. He'll attack for 1. It does in a roundabout way draw a card. He's just going to pass the turn back. Maybe a little frustrated with himself as VanMeter will untap and draw. Another red source of mana there, Inspiring Vantage. But I think this turn can be the same as the last one.
Well, now the question is, does he want to leave something back on defense? Because, you know, Hagen still got a little bit of life to play with. And imagine the last card in his hand is a removal spell for your Needle Spire. If you attack with everything, you knock him down to 7, then he gets to draw 2 cards next turn, and your board's not that good. So maybe hanging back with the Thraben Inspector is called for. Just give yourself a little bit of protection of Hagen finding extra cards with the Bomac Courier.
Perhaps. He's going to use the Bomac Courier now. Discard the Mountain. We'll see what this is. Didn't get a great look at it. All right, beat down a clock. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. Push you to 3. Unless Jacob has a removal spell, which he doesn't. There's an Inspiring Vantage. And he'll draw a card. Might be his last one of the tournament here for Jacob Hagen. Looks like Piano Lar says we can play a little bit more, but we know Chris has got the answer rolled up for that. Thopter on the way. We go over to Chris. He'll draw. Veteran Motorist, that one doesn't matter too much. It's the Weaver of Lightning that does. Is Chris VanMeter going to win this match over Jacob Hagen? 2-1. White-red vehicles will take care of red-black aggro. And for Chris VanMeter, it's another finals appearance for him on the SCG Tour. We're going to figure out who his opponent will be here in just a moment. But this version of vehicles by Team Card Hoarder looking pretty good.
Yep, a lot of success this weekend.